So today we are talking about the Metropolitan West Side Elevated Railroad track.
There it is.
Yeah, which was a privately owned railroad
Yep.
here in
One of the
Chicago.
three.
One of the three, and that's
Yep.
why we're talking about. I held up two fingers, but it's
Well,
three. Yeah.
three.
Anyway, y'all get it. But the reason why we're talking about that is it was the first rail line to have electrified the third rail.
Right. Yeah, because if you didn't know, the CTA trains don't run on
Battery.
well, I was gonna say fuel
Steam.
engine, steam engine.
Yeah.
They run on that electrified third rail.
Yep.
That's what gives them power, and that's how they run through the city.
Yeah,
Basically.
1892 is when this one started. The Metropolitan West Side
Construction started.
right? It wasn't until 1895 when the first train left from on the Metropolitan Rail, and it came from this station, the Damon Avenue station.
Yep.
And the funny thing is, it wasn't called Damon Avenue back in those times.
Right.
It was called the Roby Station. And that's where we're going to start today's journey as we head downtown, just like it did for the very first time. Let's start the show. 77 Flavors of Chicago. All right, so there's so much more to know and learn about the Metropolitan West Side Rail. And there's only one person in the city that we really want to talk to that can really tell us all about it. So
Yeah, buddy.
that's where we're going. We're headed, like I said, downtown, and we're here at the Sears Tower. So let's take a look at who we got coming up. Boy, I stumbled all over that.
Are you nervous?
No, yeah, well, yeah, a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, but let's go talk to whoever we're gonna talk to. Y'all gonna see in a second. Right now, we are inside the Sears Tower. Yes, it's called the Sears Tower. So it's the Sears
I think
Tower.
it's illegal to call it the
I
Sears
look,
Tower.
well, whatever, lock me up. We are with, you all know we've been waiting for so long for this to happen. And it happened.
I feel like your whole life you've been waiting for
My
this
whole
moment,
life.
not knowingly.
My whole life. I didn't know this is where I was going to be. But we are sitting in front of Geoffrey Baer, WTTW, probably Chicago's and America's dopest tour guide, Geoffrey Baer. Welcome to the show.
We're summing your career.
I don't know how I'm going to live up to that.
You don't even have to. You already lived it. Like it's good. Anything you say is golden to me. Like
I'll judge.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Reality check.
If you all don't know who Geoffrey Baer is, like I said, he is a tour guide. He's a dope storyteller and historian of Chicago. Everything. Like I don't even know what to say. Sum it up.
You've covered so many different topics. I don't even know what to say you're an expert of.
Yeah.
Because you're, I mean, I can't even count how many shows.
The South, the neighborhoods, the train system, Chicago by air.
The one where you were in the helicopter. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
the Chicago by air.
how
Yeah,
you did that.
I mean, you've done it all.
Yeah.
And most currently, you just released in March the most beautiful places in Chicago.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so-
So the latest show is kind of thinking about all the beautiful places I've found and been amazed by all these years of doing these programs on WTTW. So, and then I wanted to find some new ones too.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, it's just kind of a really a collection of just places you can't even believe your eyes
Yeah.
that they're in Chicago. And
Yeah.
actually, we filmed so many of these places and actually got such great interviews with these really wonderful people that we had too much for one show. We were
really?
Everybody was gonna get 3 sound bites, and
Right.
so we actually decided to make 2 shows. So there will be more beautiful places in
that's
Chicago
awesome.
coming in the fall.
Sign me up.
But
You get the scoop on that.
Yes.
But you did kind of travel outside of Chicago. I saw the Baha'i temple was in it, right? That's technically
Yeah.
outside of the
Yeah.
city.
Oh, yeah.
So there's some really cool ones. If someone watching doesn't live in Chicago and they want to travel, there's some.
Yeah, I mean,
way.
WTTW covers a huge region.
Right.
Half our viewership is outside of the city of Chicago. So we always
There's
want to
nothing
make
else to
sure.
do outside of the city. It's website.
Right, but to learn about the city.
Just learn.
Well, that's actually kind of a cool. That's kind of a characteristic thing, right? If you're from New York, like somebody says, "Where are you from?" You're, "Oh, I'm from Brooklyn," or "I'm from
Right.
Manhattan," or "I'm at Broadway and 79th
Right.
Street."
Yeah.
Like as if anybody outside New York, like
No.
everyone outside of New York should know exactly where that
Yeah.
is. Or I'm from Harlem, or I'm from the Village. But you could be from like Lockport and where are you from? Oh, I'm from Chicago.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this region, the whole
Yeah.
region,
Yeah.
people just say they're from Chicago.
Yeah, Chicagoland area,
I mean,
right?
we were literally in Egypt, and people would be like, "Where are you from?" And Dario would be like, "Chicago." I'd be like, "Oh, Chicago!" Like
Yeah.
in Cairo.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah.
Chicago holds a lot of weight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
City of first.
Yeah.
That's probably
Yeah. So I mean, I think I don't know why that is, but I think people from the whole region kind of
Yeah.
identify with Chicago. So yeah, and when we do a show, we always try to make sure that we also include things out in the
Yeah.
suburban areas as well. So in the beautiful Chicago show, as you mentioned, the Baha'i Temple up in Wilmette, this unbelievable Hindu temple called the Mandir in Bartlett.
Yep.
There's a mosque in Streamwood. There's
Wow.
more than just religious places
Right,
in
right.
the show, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean we cover things
Yeah.
in the city and outside the city.
And that's like
love that.
that's like the amazing thing about what you do is, and I've watched everything. Like you name it, I've watched it all. So like I know a lot, and it's because of the stuff that I learned from you. And like I would tell people, I'm like, oh man, did you know this about Chicago? I'm like, where'd you learn that from?
Yeah.
I'm like, I knew it. You know,
Yeah, right. Oh,
like I
absolutely.
just know that.
Please,
No.
steal anything you want.
Today we got you here because we're talking about the whole season. We've been talking about transportation in Chicago, right? We spent all of last year, all of the first 77 community areas, talking and riding in our cars, right? And that's not eco-friendly. You know what I mean? That doesn't show off.
Not financially friendly.
Not financially.
Not friendly. Not friendly to the car.
No. And you don't get a sense of Chicago, so we took it to the streets and started riding CTA and on foot process. And today we're talking about the Metropolitan Northwest Railroad, and we know it's a dope rail line, right? We know it's dope. It used to be called the Met for anybody out there, but what can you tell us about this rail line that is now the blue and pink?
Can I ask one question
Yeah.
before? Because you love the CTA.
Yeah.
I love this.
You're
Yeah,
like
you
an
love it.
advocate for
Yeah.
people to take. Can you tell me why you love the CTA?
That's good.
I love transit. I don't know why. I'm sort of a train geek.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So part of it, I think, when I was born in Highland Park, the
Okay.
north suburb, and literally out the back window of my house was our backyard, the neighbor's house, and then across the street was what is now the UP North Line, the Chicago
wow.
Northwestern, which
Yep.
I rode today to come down here to Sears
Oh
Tower.
wow.
Sears Tower.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
And my,
Straight to jail.
my mom tells me, anytime I heard a train, I would run to the window, and
Yeah.
watch train
Oh, I
go
love
by.
that.
So I just always loved trains. But now, I mean, more as an adult, it's sustainable. It's I'll be sitting on it today.
Yeah.
I was coming in on I now live in Evanston. It's the same Metro train line. It's
Yeah.
about a block from my house. I love hearing that horn go by. And I'm also close to the L, so I like the fact that Evanston is transit
Friendly.
oriented
Yeah.
Yeah.
community. But even today, I mean, coming in on the UP North line, the old Chicago Northwestern, I mean, I looked out my window on the Kennedy, huge traffic jam
Right.
Yeah.
on the Kennedy.
Right.
If I had driven today and burned all that fossil fuel,
Yeah. Right.
it would have taken me from Evanston easily an hour to get
Easy.
down here,
Yeah.
and then I would have spent $30 to park my car.
Yep.
Yeah.
For $5,
Yeah.
I got on the UP North line.
Yep.
I was literally down here in less than half an hour,
Right.
like 25 minutes.
Crazy.
And like that's a very good point, because I used to be the type of person that's like, oh, I got a car, I'll just drive. You know what I mean? Like to me that was like more convenient.
Yeah.
But really it's way
so
more
much more
convenient,
convenient. Public transit.
like, and honestly it's more fun. You know what I mean? Like now that we're doing this podcast, you see so much from a different angle
Yeah.
of the city, which again brings
You
us
see so much.
You-
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to get on my soapbox too about the environment.
Get
I
on
mean,
it.
Right.
my wife gets so sick of me saying this, but like if we're on a road trip
Mm-hmm.
and we'll be out on like heading to Michigan, we're on like I-80 in Northwest Indiana.
Yeah.
And there's a line of hundreds of semi-trucks.
Right.
Each one with its own, what do they have? A 12-cylinder
Right.
engine burning diesel.
Burning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you could take every one of these trailers for the next X number of miles
Yeah.
and put them on one train with 2 or 3 engines at the front of the train.
Yeah.
And the amount of fuel that would be burned is like a fraction
Yeah.
Right.
of, of what's being belched into the air by
Right.
each one of
crazy.
these
Right.
semi-trucks.
Yeah.
You know, and it was all, I mean, I'm, conspiracy theory here, but I mean, it was all really done quite intentionally in the 50s with the building of the interstate highway system, you know, the oil companies, the tire companies, the car companies,
Yep.
and then kind of putting the railroads out of business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was some intention behind that.
Right.
And,
yes.
and then
Yes.
and then you get into the 60s with a lot of social issues like white flight from the urban core, and you get suburban sprawl. So now every house has got a garage, and you can't get anywhere
Right.
without driving in your
Right.
car.
Right.
Right.
And we
Yeah.
see the consequence of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, you have huge cities like LA where you can't walk anywhere. You can barely take public transportation. You have to drive.
You know, and we looked at during the podcast, we started looking at like the walkability stat, right? And like before, when you know, again, I just full transparency, you didn't really care about that kind of stuff until you start really paying attention how it affects people,
Yeah.
you know, in the environment. And it's so crazy to see like Chicago's very walkable with a lot of different things if you just do it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like just get out here and do
And
it.
I would say to clarify walkability, because that term is sometimes
Right.
used in a negative way of like how safe is a neighborhood.
right.
Yeah.
We're talking
Yeah.
more of like
Actual-
the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Can you get on the sidewalks?
Right.
Is it overgrown grass?
Yeah.
That's what we mean when we talk about
Right,
walkability.
right.
Definitely not talking about
Safety wise, because
Yeah, well, and that's unfortunately something that's flipped with the
Right.
start of the pandemic, and then George Floyd and all the racial reckoning, and like all of, I mean, prior to the pandemic, I think there was a tremendous amount of energy in changing the ideas and the perceptions, and like density was becoming more popular.
Right.
It's better land use. People were like, you couldn't sell a big house in the suburbs with half an acre of land around it. People wanted to be in the city.
Right.
Right.
And sadly, I mean, with the double whammy, the pandemic, people, I don't want to be that close
Right.
to somebody. I want to
Right.
have my social distancing,
It's crazy.
I mean, coming down here, the last few times I've come down, because WTTW is on the Northwest Side. So the last few times I've come down into the Loop, I'm like, wow, there's not a lot of people here. And
Yeah.
here we are in Sears Tower, where there was a big food court
Yeah.
over there. It's cool. It's really cool what
Yeah.
they've done here with Sears
Right.
Tower.
Yeah.
But I'm like, geez, there aren't a lot of people here.
Yeah.
you know?
right, right.
And that's scary.
Yes.
The
Yes.
other thing, I mean, we're going way off in the
Yeah,
tangent,
it's
but I mean,
okay.
the
Yeah.
other thing about our transit system in Chicago is unfortunately like very downtown centric.
Right.
Right? Like all the L lines, every single one of them except the yellow line, all of them feed into the Loop.
Yeah.
Right? Because that comes from a time when everything was all about downtown,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there isn't, I mean, what we want to talk about, if we ever get to it, the Metropolitan West Side Elevated was the only
Yeah.
kind of line that you could ride the whole line out in the western neighborhoods and
Right.
never come down into the Loop. Like if you wanted to get from somewhere on the north side to the south side, but west of the Loop, you
Right.
could do that.
Right.
You didn't have to come into downtown and go out. Same thing with every Metro line.
Right.
Like, except there may be a Metro line out by O'Hare that doesn't come downtown. I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, virtually all the Metro lines
Yeah.
are just about getting into town and out of town, right?
Right.
So
Right.
the only option, if you're in, I don't know, Northbrook, and you want to go south to some southwest suburb,
Right.
you name it, or even like Oak Park.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
There's no transit
Yeah.
solution. You come all the way into the city or go all the way out or take a bus that's going to stop at every corner.
Right.
Yeah.
You've got to drive.
Right. Right.
So it's built into the system
Yeah.
that there's this limitation. And we've talked over the years about there was going to be something called the Silver Line that was going to
Right.
go,
Yeah.
going to be kind of like essentially like a a bypass of downtown.
Yeah.
That never happened.
Right.
They were talking about bus rapid transit on
Right.
Ashland and Western.
Yeah.
So you could just go straight
Yep.
down
Those
Ashland or
big
Western. You
long
didn't have to come
streets,
in
yeah.
and
Yeah.
go out.
Yeah.
That hasn't really happened. So we don't have a good transit solution
For those type of
to get you
scenarios.
except for coming downtown.
Yeah.
Right.
And we talked about that too today. Like we literally said, like, we don't want people to think that we just keep on going downtown. But like that's just what it is with the transit system, is like everything is here. It's the loop. It's just everything circles back around. I think today was the first time we were on the Brown line and we heard it switch from the loop to Kimball. Like and you heard the change. You're like, we didn't even get off the train. Like it just
Brown
goes in
line.
a circle.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that little circle.
But you were talking about the Northwest Elevated and Metropolitan, Metropolitan Northwest, West Side Elevated, and
so this is an old defunct train line, but
yes.
it's been absorbed in parts by the CTA.
Yeah. So tell us about that, because when I was doing some research on that, just like looking at it, was almost confusing because enlighten us.
Oh, I love the Metropolitan West Side. So all of the L lines in Chicago started out as private companies. The first one was the Chicago South Side Elevated, steam engines, elevated steam trains.
That's crazy.
Built
That's heavy, right?
what's that?
They're heavy, right? To be.
Well, these were like kind of little miniature steam engines,
okay,
but so it went from the loop. Well, the loop didn't exist yet. It
Right.
went from I don't know, maybe Van Buren or a little south of there, down to kind of the middle of what's Bronzeville now in 1892, and then 1893 extended down to the World's Fair of 1893. That was the South Side. There was one that went out the one that went that's now the Green Line over Lake Street that went out to Oak Park. So west, the North Line, which is now the Red Line. So these are all private L lines. So there was one called the Metropolitan West Side Elevated, and that is now, what I love about it is like the archaeological remains of that are absorbed into the modern L system. So it's the blue line that goes out to O'Hare. It was never underground before.
Right.
Now it goes underground.
Now.
But then it like kind of, so it's coming in from the northwest, and then it started heading straight south on what is now the Pink Line. And then it went out southwest. I think that was still what's the Pink Line today. So it kind of made this kind of
backwards
arc
to,
on the west side, and then you could take a spur of it that would take you across the river and into the loop. It's sort of T intersected with the loop L structure around Quincy. And
it's my favorite station.
So it wasn't the Quincy station. There was a terminal there that I think it's completely gone now. But you can, at least as of a few years ago, there some buildings have been torn down. You could see the ghost signs, the old billboards on the sides of the old painted signs on the sides of the buildings where the platforms used to be. Because it came in and it just dead ended. It T intersected.
Oh wow!
You had to get off the train and then transfer to the loop L structure.
Oh wow!
And there's actually a big chunk of concrete in the river where the bridge used to go over the river carrying the Metropolitan West Side Elevator. Is kind of between Van Buren and Adams. So it was this West Side Elevated, but it's been, pieces of it have been. So if you're going north on the Pink Line from Pilsen, and the Pink Line now connects with the Green Line west in the West Loop. But it used to go straight north, and on a structure that's gone now, and then connect, and then so you pick that up again, like around Wicker Park, where the L line comes back up above ground. So if you look straight north, you're gonna have to show a map.
If
you're riding the Pink Line, going northbound past the United Center, so United Center's on your left. If you're gonna veer this way and connect up with the Green Line and go into the loop. But if you look straight ahead, there's this huge old bridge to nowhere. It's got nothing connected on it on either end. It's an old, like, big truss bridge that goes over the metro, like a bunch of metro tracks. And it's a bridge that has nothing connected to it on either end.
Oh wow!
They just use it for like train
Is that on
signals.
Ashland?
Does it cross over Ashland?
It's I can't remember if it's east or west of Ashland, but
Because
it's
what's
literally
crazy-
so cool.
literally the bridge to nowhere.
Well-
if you can do this when you're editing,
Oh, I
can
definitely
show
will.
a picture
Yes.
of it.
We call it post edit
Yeah,
Dario.
Dario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Insert here.
So show a picture.
Right. What's up, everybody? Post edit Dario here, and I'm doing what I say I'm going to do. I'm going to find that little bridge to nowhere that Geoffrey is talking about right now, because it can't be confusing. I'm actually right here by the green and pink. The green is literally going past me right here. You can see it. Can you see it? Yeah, there it is. Going past me right now. I saw it, but I want you all to see it. Let's go take a look. So if you can see right now, it's off in the distance right there. Just like Geoffrey said, like the pink line turns and combines with the green line, and you can see it straight north from there is that bridge right there. We're about to go there and check it out even closer. Let's go. And there you have it, right there. There's the bridge. There's the bridge that goes nowhere. He's right. It literally cuts off. Just goes nowhere. But that's really cool that that's part of the old train system that's not used anymore. But it's just like bones and skeletons just sitting here. Back to the episode.
No one's ever going to understand what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. If you
I
don't-
got it.
if you don't see it. But it's an old bridge,
Oh,
big
cool.
stone support on either side of the tracks,
Yeah.
big truss structure, and then just nothing attached to it on either end.
Wow.
And it's where the Metropolitan West Side Elevated used to go across all those train tracks and then head out northwest.
That is so cool.
That is so interesting.
Yeah. Is there a reason that
Yeah.
bridge still is there? Like,
Yeah.
is it
Well-
protected, or can they just demo it whenever?
I don't know. I mean, it's
That's really
a
cool.
big job
Yeah.
to take down like a giant, iron or
Yeah.
steel
Oh,
truss
right.
bridge. So
Yeah.
maybe it's just too expensive. They do. I mean, last time I saw it, it had a bunch of the like signal lights on it for the
Yeah.
metro trains
For the
that
metro.
pass underneath.
Yeah.
So maybe they just are like, well, it's cheaper than
Right.
building a new structure to
Yeah.
carry all the signal lights, so we'll just leave it there.
That is so
I don't
interesting.
know exactly why.
Yeah.
but-
Wow, that's very interesting. That's crazy, because like we see that all the time, and we're like, what is that? Like we're literally just like, why is that just hanging there?
Yeah.
So we know exactly. Well, I'll definitely show it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what's really cool is how I didn't know that they basically. Well, you kind of know just for multiple reasons why they just cut out the train, right? But specifically with the West Side Elevated, like, was there a reason why like they just stopped that? I mean, like in all those cuts, and we have these just bones left of.
Yeah. I can speculate.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these train lines, with the advent of the automobile, a lot of there used to be so many more trains and so many more
Right.
stations.
Right. Yeah.
Like you were saying on the Brown Line,
Yeah.
you rode in on the Brown Line.
Yeah.
And there were where Cabrini Green was built. There were like
Right.
2 or 3 stations there,
Right.
and I think for racist reasons, they were
yeah.
like, "Yeah, we don't want those
Yep.
Cabrini Green folks getting
Right.
on the train."
Yep.
Wow.
So they tore down those stations. But I think it became less and less viable, like financially viable, to these private companies. And so first they all got absorbed into one big company called the Chicago Rapid Transit
Yeah.
Company.
CRTC.
Yeah, which might have been a private company. I think it was.
Yeah. They basically they ate up all the 3, right, the main
Yeah.
ones, and then they became their own thing, and that's when CTA, of course.
Right, and then right,
Yeah.
subsequent to that,
Yeah.
then the CTA was formed. Then it became a public,
Right.
agency and not a commercial
Yep.
Yeah.
enterprise anymore, because cities understand that they need transit. You're
Right.
gonna,
It's
if
like
you
a
don't-
basic.
Yeah.
right.
Right. I mean, if you don't have transit,
Right.
you're going to have like massive traffic jam.
Yeah.
You're going to have even worse traffic than you have. So
Right.
cities understand that they need transit,
Yeah.
but it isn't. It's like public television. It isn't. It isn't like a naturally viable financial model
Yeah. Yeah.
without support
Right.
from, in this case of transit, it's government support.
Yeah.
I mean, all the great train systems in like Europe and Asia,
Right.
they're all government
They're all government.
Right.
Yeah.
agencies.
Right.
They're not like
Yeah.
private companies.
Right.
This is also like not a money making scheme. Like
Right.
there's definitely you're it's just something
We
you're gonna
need
have
it.
to be putting money in.
We need it.
Like
We need it.
Yeah.
it's not for profit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's wild.
So I would assume that with the Metropolitan West Side Elevated went out of business. There was some consolidation. They didn't, they figured certain lines were just not going to be viable for whatever reason. They closed them. That little piece of the Pink Line, so the Pink Line is the newest
one
line. That piece of it that runs between the Green Line over Lake Street, past the United Center, and down to the Eisenhower Expressway, where it picks up what used to be, that was an existing L structure that hadn't been used in like 50 years. But it hadn't been torn down like so many other structures had been torn down. That one they still used it to like shuttle trains back and forth, like if they needed more train cars on one line or another. So it was sort of active as a kind of behind the scenes service line. So then they reactivated it when they created the Pink Line.
Wow.
That is really cool.
That's very interesting. I was thinking about something about reactivating. So this is, like I said, the first line that had the electrified third rail. So
the Metropolitan West Side Elevated?
Yes.
So that's something that I did not know. So that's cool. There you go.
Well, what's crazy is like we wanted to know because we were sitting here.
We don't know if you know.
We don't know if you know or if anybody knows. Like I'm sure somebody knows, but like the electrified third rail, right? We know where it is.
Do we know where it is?
Do we know where it is?
Like we've crossed
when you
over.
walk over, like
when you go to Kimball, the Kimball stop, you get off. It's the last stop. You get off and you walk across the tracks because it's the middle of a neighborhood. You can cross like you would with the metro.
Not at Kimball, but before you get to Kimball, right?
Yes.
When it's running a grade, through Ravenswood Manor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So does that
There's no third rail there.
No.
So does it stop?
Yeah. So if you look, if you're going to cross, like if you've got a train running at ground level,
Okay.
and you're going to like cross the tracks at I don't know, Manor goes across the tracks, or Kedzie.
Yep.
If you don't get hit by a train, if you stand there, if you look like down the train line one way or the other, you can see where the third rail ends and like dips down.
I was right.
And then
You said just pay attention, and then you'll just see it.
Yeah, and it's like a few yards before you get to the track to the crossing.
Yeah.
And then it picks up again on the other side. It's a little bit it's the third rail, so there's two rails, and then there's this third one that's elevated a little bit next to it, and a shoe from the train sits on the top of that rail and picks up the electricity. So the trains are long enough that the last car is still connected to the third rail, and then the first car picks up the third rail after the intersection before the last car lets go of it. And even if it does let go of it, it's
still got enough power.
It'll coast a little bit. That's also, how you see like a big spark?
Yeah, right.
Sometimes when it either lets go, when the shoe disengages from that third rail or connects with the next one,
you'll see that
one of those sparks.
Oh, that's
And actually, when we were filming to film that, I did this TV show called Chicago by L.
Oh, yes.
So we rode every L line in Chicago.
This TV show.
Yeah, right.
Just for those who know. And we rode every L line in Chicago. And, you get these big sparks, right? And so we had our own private L train for filming for 8 days.
Okay.
So we were with a train crew, and we got to know them. And it is not uncommon or it's at least not unheard of. You get they got wooden ties.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Spark, wooden tie.
Yeah. Fire.
These guys are like, there's another track fire, and so they'll like stop the train, put on the brakes, climb down, grab the fire extinguisher,
Really?
walk up to the tie. Okay, we fixed it. There's like it's totally
like it's normal. Like
no
it's
big deal.
What? Wow. Meanwhile, you're like this, like, oh.
We're like, is that smoke? I guess it's not really a big deal, but it happens.
Wow.
That is wild.
That's amazing.
Were the people that were with you on parts of the filming on the train, were they extras or were they okay? I was like, are they people
so
riding
if you
the
watch
train?
the show,
yes.
There's like people on the train.
Yeah.
And right, so we would start filming every day at a particular place. They would arrange to have the train meet us there. And we had to do a lot of preparing of the train. Like, you as
Yep.
now an accomplished filmmaker,
Yeah. Hey.
you know that if you put some, and for those of you who do Zoom,
Yeah.
if you set up your call and you've got like a big window behind
Yep.
you,
Yeah.
you're going to be a silhouette.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And the only way to counteract that is either to hit me or whoever's on there with like blinding
Yep.
light
Yep.
to compensate
Really
for the
brighten
light
you.
behind you,
Yep.
or somehow dim the window.
Put a mask
Right?
up
So
on the flag.
before
Yeah.
we would go on all these, there's an L train is just nothing but windows, right?
Yeah.
So before we would film, our lighting crew would come on, and they had this netting material that you can't see on TV, but they would stretch this netting material over all the windows.
Really?
So that the
Really
light would
dim
be
it down.
dimmed down,
Oh,
so
that's
they didn't have
smart.
to like blast
Re-
light
yeah.
in our faces. And then we had all these extras
Yeah.
that you mentioned, like people we'd recruited. Hey, do you want to
Yeah.
go around on the train? And they were all being held by our assistant producer, associate producer, like, so they weren't like just in the way.
Yeah.
And then they would all get on the train, and then we would position them around on the train,
Yep.
and try to give everybody a chance to
Fair,
be in the
fair.
background.
Yeah.
15 seconds of fame.
Could
Yeah.
have done it if I'd have known.
Yeah. It's all good. I was on the Great Chicago
You
Quiz
were.
Show.
You were
I'm-
brilliant. You were
I'm good.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Did he get any of the answers?
Look,
I don't remember.
no, I did not.
you get any? You
I
didn't
did
get
not.
any of
I
them?
didn't.
No kidding.
So I got an answer right, but it wasn't for me, and I didn't know if I could tell Selena. She was, I didn't know if I could say it, but I knew it was Halsted was the answer. And I was
Don't
like,
you hate that?
I hate it because I knew that one.
My brother does trivia events, and I was participated in one the other day.
That's so not fair.
And once you're out,
Yeah.
right? Then they ask a question you know,
That you
the
know,
answer,
yeah.
and you're already out.
Yeah, you know
I'm
about
like,
You didn't win?
oh no, he asks like
Really hard.
Really
questions.
hard
like
questions.
they're not Chicago history
yeah.
questions.
Like who's
They're
the first person
like
that got a haircut in Chicago?
stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, he asked like NCAA March
Ridiculous.
Madness
Oh,
questions.
like
What do I know?
yeah, right. Yeah,
Or like the Oscars. Sorry, I didn't watch them.
Yeah.
yeah, no.
One of his questions was, true or false, there's never been an Oscar won by somebody whose name was Oscar.
True.
That's true.
That's never happened?
I don't think
I
so.
would think so. Like,
Oscar Hammerstein from the music composer.
Yeah.
Has won 2.
Oh wow.
oh, that's a good one. Now I'm going to be saying that to people. Like, so
Like, did you know?
did you know?
Right.
I just want to say because like you gave us.
I have one more
Go
question.
ahead.
What's your favorite line?
Well, I lived on the Brown Line for many,
That's my
many years, and I do love the Brown Line. It's kind of this treetop view of
Yep.
Chicago, which I love. So I tell people, when they're visiting Chicago, that's a really cool thing because first of all, if you do the whole Brown Line,
Mm-hmm.
you start out in Albany Park, which is like the United Nations
Right.
Yes.
of Chicago.
We
like,
just talked about
Jews, Arabs, Latinos, like everything you can imagine.
Literally.
Yeah.
And then you go through, really kind of like Ravenswood Manor, kind of beautiful, swanky,
Yep.
but old houses. You get to see Lakeview. You get
Yep.
to Boys Town, and then you keep going south, and pretty soon you're in like the West Loop, and then you
Right.
get to go all the way around the loop and
All
see the
around the loop.
skyscrapers.
Yeah.
You see the river. So
Right.
it's like kind of a good sampling.
Everything,
And it's
yeah.
all at like that treetop
Yeah.
height.
Yeah.
So I always like to.
Yeah.
I
It's a
agree.
really good one. I love that
The
one.
Quincy stuff.
I also
It's just-
I also love the red line going through Chinatown. That's a
Yes.
really good one. And then I like the green line going south to the University of Chicago. That's
Yes.
also a cool
Yeah,
site.
wish it still did go to the University of Chicago.
Well,
Yeah, where
I mean,
we.
that's really another
That's another.
Near the
very
University.
sad comment
Right.
on the racial divide in Chicago.
Yeah.
It used to extend all the way to Jackson Park.
Right.
Tore that
check
down.
check out that episode too.
Yeah, and that's kind of a sad
Yeah.
comment.
Very sad.
on,
I mean, we can dive way deeper into that. That's a different conversation. But like, it is very sad, specifically with that one because like it once did. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and it's now it's taken away. It's like, which is crazy. A lot of people don't realize a lot of stuff. We like to talk ill about the South Side. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people like to,
We don't.
not we don't, but like a lot of people like to talk ill about the South Side. When in actuality, a lot of stuff really happened or started on the South
Oh,
Side.
absolutely.
You know, and I don't think people realize that. And even us, I mean, we knew you like you.
Listen to
you
the podcast, you'll learn.
Yeah, you'll learn that like. You know, some people always ask us, so what's your favorite neighborhood? What's this? And it's like we don't have like a favorite necessarily. Like we've grown to love the city, but like you realize the South Side is very important to Chicago's history.
Well, if you think about the original sort of geography of Chicago, and by the way, it's really important to talk about this.
Yes.
When we talk about the history of Chicago, we're talking about non-native history of Chicago,
Right,
right?
right.
I mean,
Yes,
this
right.
for centuries,
Right.
this was the homeland of successive
Yes.
Native American people, you know,
Yes.
who are still here,
Right. Right.
and you know that gets forgotten. But if we're just going to talk about non-native Chicago,
Right.
if you think about it, you got a lake to the east, you got a river to the north, and a river to the west, right? You
Yeah.
can't really get north,
Right. Right.
if unless you're coming from the north,
Right. Right.
right? And so when downtown Chicago, what we now, you know, the centered loop was developed, you had to come in from the south.
Yeah. Right.
And then all the growth happened towards the south.
Right,
You know,
right.
that before you had good bridges to get across the river,
Yeah.
all the development was
Right.
to
Right.
all the railroad lines came in from the south.
Yeah.
You know, it was very much that was where where the first like wealthy Chicagoans.
Yeah.
You know, the Gold Coast of
Yeah.
Chicago was
Right.
South Prairie Avenue.
South Prairie Avenue.
You know, I mean, it was all the
Water Row.
energy was
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
south.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, it's, again, I'm sitting here, like, absorbing. And what's really cool this time is that, like, we've talked about a lot of this stuff. And it's so cool to have that validation, not only just from somebody, but from Geoffrey Baer. So, like, it just feels
Jeffrey's
so
like,
good.
please stop.
No, no, I can't. Like, this is just, oh, my goodness. It's been great. Honestly,
Yeah.
thank you. You know,
Oh,
thank
my
you
pleasure.
for being on
My
this.
pleasure. Do I put my ankle monitor back
Yeah,
on?
No, you can, if you want it, you can have it. Like,
Oh,
you can,
okay, great.
You can have it.
Maybe not. They're like $200 a piece. So
Okay.
Hey, plug the show one time so
Oh,
people
yes.
plug all the shows, but like plug what you want to plug here so people
your
can.
newer show.
Yeah.
So my newest show
Yeah.
is The Most Beautiful Places in Chicago, and the way to see it now is on our website or streaming on PBS Passport. So on the website is WTTW.com, which would be .org, but we're .com.
Yeah.
WTTW.com/beautiful places, and you can stream the show there. And there's also a whole photo gallery of beautiful places. There's an audio tour that I give, which has a lot more beautiful places.
Oh,
There's a
dope.
couple of web exclusive features there, or you can stream the show on the PBS app. I
Please.
think on
we'll
YouTube
include
too.
Yes,
we'll include
yes,
the links at
yes.
the bottom of
All the
this
links will be
video
there.
or the podcast if you're listening to the episode.
Watch it because he kicks it off with like this. I don't want to spoil it for you, but like this dope shot of in the helicopter.
No, airplane.
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 And-
It's this like two-person airplane
yeah.
that literally you couldn't pay me enough money
Yeah,
to
I
be
know.
inside. I don't
But-
know how you have the courage.
Oh, I totally
Oh
loved
my
that.
God.
Oh.
We were
The view is beautiful.
The plane, this pilot wanted to show me Chicago, the skyline from out over the lake at sunset.
Yeah.
And we took off. His planes are in Schaumburg. It's like a flying club.
Yeah.
And so my cameraman was in one plane, and I was in the other plane.
That's wild.
And we're like flying next to each other.
What?
Oh my God.
And then we had little GoPros stuck all around the plane.
Wow.
Oh,
They just have drone shots of that now. You don't need
You
to
don't-
go on the plane.
Oh
You can
no,
just
I loved
look
it,
at
man.
them.
I totally loved it.
So you know how to do this, Jeff.
Absolutely loved it.
Barry,
That's the-
Barry Butler, great shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Barry Butler, good.
Yeah.
With the drones, right? He's
It was
great.
great
He's
drone
great.
shots of him.
We saw him out in the wild one day.
You got to have him on the show.
Come on, Barry.
Come on, Barry. there's the second cosign. So
There you
again, thank you. Y'all go check it out. We got all the links down there. Check out his whole catalog,
Yeah.
honestly. And even some of the old Chicago quiz show. Are those still up?
I'm sure they are.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
If
Also,
you go to WTTW.com/Geoffrey Baer, my name,
Yeah.
which is
Everything
spelled
comes
funny,
up.
GeoffreyBaer.
Yeah.
All the shows are there.
yeah.
Man, look, some of those questions were so easy. And those people got, anyway.
He's mad that he got hard questions.
Yeah, I know. I knew Halstead. Anyway, thank you, Jeff.
My pleasure. Thank you. I'm honored to be on.
Absolutely. Man, that was a dope conversation.
Yeah, that was amazing.
With a dude that I absolutely look up to.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic.
Do you think he would be okay with you calling him a dude?
I mean, my homie. You know what I mean? Yeah, we call him my homie. No, but honestly, thank you, Geoffrey Baer, for being on the episode. Yeah. But we hungry.
I'm starving.
Actually starving.
Actually starving.
So y'all know what time it is. It's time to eat. Let's go.
Buddy. So we are at our restaurant for the episode today.
Yep.
Dario's vibing. Straight vibing here. So we are at Seoul Taco, Seoul Seoul, which is David Choi's Korean Latin fusion restaurant. Yes. And they have a couple locations. This one is the one we're in. We took the blue line.
Back to Damon stop.
At the Damon stop. We are in Wicker Park on Milwaukee. And we first had Seoul Taco at the Wicker Park Festival.
Yeah.
And we liked it. So
now here we are to try the whole menu, and we got
a couple
the whole
different
spread
things.
almost.
Yeah. So we got the nachos with steak. Boom.
Yeah.
We got what is their take on the Crunchwrap Supreme, right? It has steak, rice, kimchi, their special sauce, and then we got the big boy burrito.
Got to get the burrito. Let's look at it ripping apart. Got to get the burrito right here. Look at that. Ooh,
gorgeous.
Now.
And then we got 3 different tacos. We got chicken, pork, and steak.
Yes.
To try out.
We'll try
and
all of them.
They come in a corn tortilla. So.
Is that good or bad?
No, nothing. It's just a.
I don't know, preference.
No, I'm just.
What you digging in?
Oh, well, I want to try nachos.
You trying nacho? I don't even know, y'all. This is a tough choice. Let's go ahead. Let's attack this burrito. This burrito is looking at me crazy. What do you think about the nacho?
That's good.
Before I go.
They're a little cold, but
yeah.
I think it's because we waited for everything to come out. I'm gonna try the Crunchwrap.
There you go. So, the best part about Seoul Taco is that, as I chew my mouth open, the food tastes just like what you imagine a Seoul Asian food would be with all the condiments and everything inside, but the feel of the Latin infusion.
Yeah.
I don't know if I said that right, but my goodness,
Fusion.
The flavors are just crazy. You could taste what would be in a typical,
right.
Yeah.
So this Crunchwrap that I'm having is literally like a Crunchwrap. It's a big flour tortilla, and it has a layer of like crispy, a tostada, right? It's like a crispy tortilla, and then it has kimchi, which is giving it a bit of a spiciness to it. It has the steak. It has like Mexican rice, the red Mexican rice, and refried beans. So, it's a great combo of both.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely tell why this is like a kicker spot late night. And if I'm not familiar with Wicker Park, I mean, this is where you kick it at. A lot of late night happenings. I can't tell you how many comedy shows I've done at the Flatiron Building right here on Milwaukee. I got my first ever professional photo shoot, thanks to Sean, right here at the Damon stop, actually. We shop down here so many times, so I haven't had this except for at the fest, but you can see why this is kicking it. Like the music is lit. The food is like quick.
Super quick. Look at that. So good.
I'll tell you, the beef is the steak is so good. The flavors of the rice and the sauces are just amazing.
The kimchi and everything is my favorite. I love kimchi, so if you don't, you're not gonna like it.
Just amazing.
They do also have a shrimp taco and a tofu option. So if you don't eat meat and you want to try it, or you can get it with no meat at all. So it has beans in it, so it does have some protein, but
yeah. It's all on you. All right, I'm gonna take a bite of this chicken, the chicken joint right here. See, let's see.
I would say the burrito is very similar to the crunch wrap, which is not surprising
Right.
because it's the same ingredients, just a different.
You get one, you had them all, huh? Taco's fantastic though.
Is it?
Taco lit. Yeah, try that. What you think?
That is good.
Let me try that's good. It's good, right? Let me try that steak one. The sauce is on this
They
thing.
have this sauce that they add to everything.
Yeah. It's just setting it off, right?
It's this sauce.
I thought I was tweaking.
I don't know what it is, but it's really good. It's like a spicy.
That's
that
good.
Steak. Chill out.
Kill it. Say less.
I'm gonna try the pork one.
Oh, this is good. Damn.
Look how beautiful that looks.
Yeah, that's fire. Fire. Go ahead, feel that. Hey, these tacos. This is what we had at the fest. So we already knew these was gonna slap. Oh my god.
Yeah. We did. Wow. Well, it's been a long day.
Fun day.
Emotional day for Dario.
Y'all, I want to cry, but
Yeah. We're gonna go finish our food. I want to try the churros. One thing, last thing before we hop off.
yeah. Let's try churros. I split.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
Good.
Churro fire. It's hard to mess up a churro.
Hard to miss with a churro.
Yeah.
Fried dough.
Yeah. All right. Now we out.